The council chamber was massive, built to hold representatives from 40 different alien species. The ceiling stretched so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. Jake Morrison sat in a chair that wasn't designed for human bodies, trying to look comfortable while his back screamed in protest. Next to him, Lisa Grant tapped her fingers on the armrest, and Danny Cooper kept adjusting his collar like it was choking him. Ambassador Kelrith stood at the center podium. He was tall even for a Vaxian with blue skin that shimmered under the lights. His forearms gestured dramatically as he spoke. The translator in Jake's ear turned the alien's words into English, though it couldn't hide the condescending tone. "The station orbits a dying star," Kelrith said, pulling up a holographic display. The image showed a dark structure spinning near a massive red sun. "The star will collapse in 72 hours. The station contains data that is vital to 17 member species of this council. Without it, billions will suffer." Jake leaned forward, studying the image. The station looked old, covered in scorch marks and debris. Parts of it were already breaking away, pulled by the star's increasing gravity. "3 teams have attempted recovery," Kelrith continued. His voice dropped lower. None returned. "The station's artificial intelligence system has gone rogue. It has activated all defense protocols, automated weapons, security drones, environmental controls used as weapons. The last team managed to send a distress signal before they died. We have the recording if you wish to hear it." "That won't be necessary," Jake said calmly. Kelrith's face twitched in what might have been surprise. Around the chamber, other aliens shifted in their seats. A Throrian delegate, whose species looked like walking crystals, made a sound like breaking glass. The translator called it a gasp. "Commander Morrison," Kelrith said slowly, "perhaps you do not understand. This is not a simple retrieval mission. The radiation from the collapsing star alone would kill most species within minutes. The station's AI has had cycles to prepare defenses. It learns from each attempt to breach it. It is, by all tactical analysis, a death mission." Jake looked at Lisa and Danny. Lisa shrugged. Danny grinned. Jake turned back to Kelrith. "Ambassador, on Earth we call that Tuesday, the chamber erupted. Aliens made sounds of confusion, alarm, and what the translator struggled to identify as either admiration or disbelief." Kelrith's skin color shifted from blue to purple, which Jake's briefing note said meant extreme confusion. "You accept?" Kelrith managed to say. "When do we leave?" Jake asked. "I must insist you understand the danger," Kelrith said, his forearms spreading wide. "The Zorathian team that went first were expert soldiers. They survived 3 galactic wars. All 12 died within the first hour. The second team, from Praxis 7, were technicians and hackers. They bypassed the first security layer. The AI vented their section to space. The third team had the right equipment but the wrong training," Lisa interrupted. "I read the reports on the flight here. They approached it like a military assault. That's why they failed." Kelrith stared at her. "You are a pilot, yes? How would you approach it differently?" "Like a rescue mission," Lisa said simply. "In and out, fast and quiet. Don't try to fight the whole station. Just get what we need and leave." "The radiation," Kelrith started. "We've flown through solar flares during training," Danny cut in. "Not exactly the same, but the principles are similar. Shield management, power distribution, heat dissipation. It's all stuff we learned in year 2 at the academy." A small alien in the front row stood up. It looked like a purple teddy bear with too many eyes. "You learned to fly through stars in your second year of training?" It squeaked. "Not through stars," Danny corrected. "Through solar flares. Big difference. Stars would obviously kill us." The alien sat back down, looking somehow even more confused. Kelrith pulled up another hologram. This one showed a schematic of the station's interior. "The data core is located here in the central hub. To reach it, you must pass through 17 secured sections. Each has its own defense system. Each has already proven lethal." Jake studied the map, his eyes tracing potential routes. "What about the maintenance corridors?" "Maintenance corridors?" Kelrith zoomed in on the schematic. Thin lines appeared between the main sections. "These are not designed for travel. They are barely 1 meter wide. They have no life support. They connect to waste management systems and power conduits. So the AI probably isn't monitoring them as closely," Jake said. "Good. Commander, those corridors were not built for living beings to traverse. They are service tubes for repair drones." "Perfect," Lisa said. "We're smaller than most aliens. We should fit fine." Amy Price, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke up. She was the team's medical officer, and Jake had learned she only talked when it was important. What toxins are we dealing with? The report mentioned atmospheric contamination. Kelreth pulled up a new display. The AI has been releasing industrial chemicals into the air supply. The mixture includes chlorine gas, carbon monoxide, and several neurotoxins. Any breach of your environmental suits would be fatal. Amy nodded, making notes on her datapad. Standard hazmat protocols, then. We trained for chemical exposure in the Titan mines. This is actually a shorter exposure time. You trained in environments with neurotoxins? A alien delegate asked, its voice high with disbelief. Saturn's moon Titan has a thick atmosphere of toxic hydrocarbons, Amy explained. We set up research stations there. Sometimes things leak. You learn to deal with it. Kelreth's skin color shifted again, this time to a dark violet. I am trying to convey the severity of this mission. Perhaps humans do not experience fear as other species do. Oh, we feel fear, Jake said. We just don't let it stop us. Look, Ambassador, I appreciate the concern, but every human on my crew volunteered for this job knowing it would be dangerous. We didn't come to the stars expecting a vacation. Chris Dalton, the weapons specialist, had been sitting quietly at the back of the human delegation. He stood up now, his tall frame drawing attention. Sir, I have a question. The AI that went rogue, does it still follow any of its original programming? Kelreth consulted his datapad. Partially. It still maintains core systems. It still protects the data core, which was its primary function. It has simply decided that protecting the data means eliminating all potential threats. So it's scared, Chris said. Not evil. Just scared and confused. It is a machine, Kelreth said flatly. Machines can still have something like fear, Chris replied. If its programming created a conflict it couldn't resolve, it might have defaulted to extreme defensive measures. We might be able to work with that. The chamber filled with muttering. Jake could hear the translator struggling to keep up with dozens of conversations happening at once. Finally, Kelreth raised his hands for silence. Very well. The Council accepts your confidence. The Horizon will be provided with all necessary resources. You depart in 12 hours. May fortune favor you, though I suspect you will need more than fortune. Jake stood up and his crew followed. Ambassador, we don't need fortune. We just need a little time, good equipment, and each other. That's always been enough before. As they left the chamber, Jake heard one alien whisper to another. They truly do not understand what they face. Lisa must have heard it too. She leaned close to Jake and whispered, Should we tell them about the time you flew a burning shuttle through a meteor storm? Nah, Jake said with a slight smile. Let's surprise them. Behind them, the Galactic Council began making preparations for humanity's first official mission. Some prepared resources and support. Others prepared memorial protocols, certain they would need them soon. None of them prepared for what would actually happen when humans decided that impossible just meant nobody had succeeded yet. The docking bay smelled like ozone and fuel. The ESS Horizon sat in the center, looking small compared to the massive alien vessels around it. Jake watched as his crew ran through pre-flight checks, each person moving with practiced efficiency. Nicole Hayes stood near the cargo ramp, reviewing a list on her datapad. She was head of security, though Jake sometimes joked that on a crew of 7 people that was like being the head of a very small club. She looked up as a group of Vaxian military personnel approached, pushing floating crates of equipment. Commander Morrison, the lead Vaxian said. His nameplate translated to something like Thren 5. He had the bearing of a career soldier, straight-backed and serious. We have brought the supplies your medical officer requested. However, I must express concern. This is barely 1/3 of what the previous teams required. Amy appeared at the top of the cargo ramp, wiping her hands on a cloth. That's because the previous teams packed for a siege. We're packing for speed. Thren 5's skin shifted to a worried orange color. Dr. Price, the mission duration is estimated at 6 to 8 hours minimum. You have requested medical supplies for only 4 hours. We'll be done in 3, Amy said confidently. 4 hours of supplies means we have a buffer. Besides, most of this weight is coming from trauma kits and radiation meds. We don't need entertainment, extra food, or comfort items. The other teams required psychological support equipment, stress relief devices, meditation chambers, Amy smiled. We've got Danny, he tells terrible jokes. That's our stress relief. From inside the ship, Danny's voice called out, Hey, my jokes are great. See? Amy said. Stress relief. Thren 5 looked like he wanted to argue but wasn't sure how. Instead, he gestured to another group of aliens approaching with more equipment. Your weapons specialist requested only basic armaments. We have advanced plasma rifles, molecular disruptors, and quantum destabilizers available. Chris Dalton walked down the ramp, checking a pistol. It was a simple human-made weapon, nothing fancy. No thanks. I know how this gun works. I know how to maintain it. I know exactly what it'll do in different environments. Those fancy weapons are great until they malfunction in high radiation. Then you're holding an expensive paperweight. But the firepower isn't as important as reliability, Chris finished. Besides, if we're doing this right, we won't be in many firefights. We're trying to avoid the defenses, not fight through them. Thren 5's color shifted again, this time to deep purple. Jake was learning that meant serious concern. Commander, I must speak with you privately. They walked away from the ship, stopping near a stack of cargo containers. Thren 5 was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. Commander Morrison, my species has been traveling the stars for 3,000 years. We have fought in 17 major conflicts. We have encountered threats that would make your blood freeze. And I am telling you, with all due respect, that your crew is not taking this seriously enough. Jake crossed his arms. What makes you say that? Your pilot is running simulations of the approach, but she is listening to music while doing so. Your engineer is singing. Your medical officer packed supplies like she is going on a short trip. Your weapons specialist turned down superior firepower. And you, Thren 5 paused, you have been smiling since we began preparations. Would you prefer if we were panicking? Jake asked. I would prefer if you showed appropriate concern for the danger you face. Jake turned to look at his ship. Through the open cargo bay, he could see his crew working. Lisa was indeed running simulations, her head bobbing slightly to whatever music she was playing. Danny was checking power systems, occasionally pausing to dance a little. It did look casual. It probably looked insane to someone expecting military precision and grim determination. Thren 5, can I ask you something? How long do your people train before going on dangerous missions? Typically 2 years of specialized preparation for high-risk operations. And how often do they succeed? Thren 5 hesitated. Our success rate for extreme risk missions is approximately 40%. Jake nodded. Humans train their whole lives for danger. Not on purpose exactly. It's just how our planet is. We grow up climbing trees that could drop us from deadly heights. We swim in oceans with predators. We drive vehicles at high speeds for fun. We invented dozens of sports that basically amount to controlled ways to almost die. This sounds like a species-wide death wish. No, it's curiosity mixed with stubbornness, Jake said. We see something scary, and half of us run away while the other half runs toward it to see what happens. The ones who run toward it learn really fast how to not die. Then they teach others. Then those people push the limits even further. It's a cycle. Thren 5 looked skeptical. You are saying humans are naturally prepared for suicide missions? I'm saying we're naturally prepared for situations where careful planning meets unexpected chaos. You know what Lisa did before joining the space program? She was a test pilot. She flew experimental aircraft that had a 30% chance of catastrophic failure. She did it 53 times. When I asked her why, she said it was fun. That is insanity. That's Lisa, Jake said with a grin. Danny spent 2 years working on deep-sea oil rigs. Do you know what happens when something goes wrong 4 kilometers underwater? You have minutes to fix it or everyone dies. He learned to work under pressure. Literally and figuratively. And your medical officer? Amy was a trauma surgeon in Chicago, one of the most violent cities on Earth back in the day. She once performed surgery during a building fire because she couldn't evacuate the patient. She's seen things that would give your nightmares nightmares. Thren 5 was quiet for a long moment. Commander, my government asked me to observe your preparations and report back. They wanted to know if humans were truly as capable as your species claims, or if you were simply too ignorant to understand the dangers of space. And what will you tell them? I do not know yet, Thren 5 admitted. Your crew is unlike any I have encountered. You joke in the face of death. You minimize equipment. You seem almost eager to face impossible odds. I cannot decide if this is supreme confidence or supreme foolishness. Maybe it's both, Jake said. Look, I won't lie to you. We might fail. We might die. But we're going to try. And we're going to give it everything we have. And we're going to do it our way because that's the only way we know how. A new alien approached, this one small and round with 6 legs. It was carrying a datapad that seemed too large for its body. "Commander Morrison? I am Scholar Pixon. I have been researching your species since the council meeting." "And?" Jake asked. "And I am confused by everything I have learned," Pixon said, its voice high and fast. "Your planet is classified as a deathworld. Class 7 hazard rating, yet you have no natural armor, no venom, no enhanced strength compared to your size. You should have evolved to be cautious, paranoid, risk-averse. Instead, you climb mountains for recreation. You jump from aircraft for entertainment. You explore underwater caves and active volcanoes. Your own planet has tried to kill you in every way possible, and you respond by making sports out of those dangers." "Sounds about right," Jake agreed. "But why? What evolutionary advantage does this behavior provide?" Danny had wandered over, carrying a toolbox. "Because the humans who were too scared to try new things never found the better hunting grounds, never discovered the safer shelters, never learned which plants were edible. The risk-takers learned more, adapted faster, survived better, were descended from the ones who said, 'I wonder what's over that dangerous mountain,' instead of staying in the safe valley." Pixon made a sound like a deflating balloon. "This explains so much about your species' history. Your wars, your explorations, your technological advancement. You are biologically programmed to take risks." "We're programmed to solve problems," Amy said, joining the conversation. "And sometimes the solution to a problem is risky. But here's the thing. We're also really good at keeping each other alive through the risky stuff. We train together. We trust each other. We know each other's strengths and weaknesses." Lisa called down from the ship. "Hey boss, we're ready when you are." "All systems green." Jake turned back to Thren 5 and Pixon. "You want to know if we're taking this seriously? We absolutely are. We're just not going to waste energy on fear. Fear doesn't solve problems. Planning skill and teamwork solve problems. So that's what we're focusing on." Nicole appeared at the cargo ramp. "Jake, we need to do final equipment check. Chris wants your opinion on the suit modifications." "Suit modifications?" Thren 5 asked with alarm. "You are modifying your protective equipment?" "Just minor adjustments," Nicole said. "Chris wants to attach some extra tools to the exterior. Makes it easier to access them in narrow spaces. That could compromise the suit integrity." "Not the way Chris does it," Nicole assured him. "He's been modifying equipment since he was 12. Never lost a seal yet." Jake started walking back to the ship. "We launch in 4 hours. You're welcome to stay and watch if you want." Thren 5 watched the humans board their vessel, their casual confidence unshaken. Behind him, Pixon was muttering to itself, reviewing data on its oversized datapad. "They truly believe they will succeed," Thren 5 said quietly. The dying star filled the view screen, massive and angry red. Jake could feel the heat even through the ship's shields. The temperature inside the horizon had climbed 5 degrees in the last hour, and they were still 20,000 kilometers away from the station. "Radiation levels are climbing," Danny announced from the engineering station. His screens showed angry red lines creeping upward. "We're at 70% of maximum safe exposure, and we haven't even started the approach yet. Reroute power from non-essential systems to shields," Lisa said, her hands moving across the pilot controls. "And by non-essential, I mean literally everything except life support and engines. That includes the coffee maker," Danny warned. "I said what I said." The Galactic Council ship hung back at a safe distance, monitoring everything. Jake knew they were recording this, probably expecting to watch the horizon's final moments. He pushed that thought away and focused on the mission. "There's the station," Nicole said, pointing at the screen. The structure was barely visible against the star's glare, a dark shape spinning slowly. Pieces of debris orbited it, torn from the outer hull by the star's increasing gravity. "The debris field is thicker than the scans showed," Lisa muttered. She adjusted their course, threading between chunks of metal and ice. "This is going to make docking interesting." "Define interesting," Chris said from the weapons station. "Oh, we're probably going to die kind of interesting," Lisa replied cheerfully. "Just checking." An alarm started beeping. Danny silenced it quickly. Radiation just jumped to 90%. "The star's output is increasing faster than predicted. Can we handle it?" Jake asked. "For about 3 hours, yes. After that, we start taking permanent damage to ship systems, and possibly our DNA. 3 hours is plenty," Amy said from her station. She was already suited up in her protective gear, ready to move. "We get in, grab the core, get out. 30 minutes inside tops." The station grew larger on the screen. Up close, it looked even worse than the images suggested. Whole sections were dark. Atmosphere vented into space. Scorch marks covered the hull where weapons had fired. One docking arm was completely destroyed, twisted metal pointing at nothing. "The AI is scanning us," Chris announced. "Multiple targeting locks. It knows we're here." "Of course it does," Jake said. "Lisa, take us to docking port 7. It's damaged, but still functional." "Port 7 is on the dark side of the station," Lisa said, studying her screens. "The AI probably can't target us as easily there." "That's the idea." The horizon moved slowly around the station's bulk, using it as a shield against both the star's radiation and the AI's weapons. Jake watched the sensor displays, seeing the targeting locks drop away one by one as they moved out of the defense system's line of sight. "Docking port 7 in sight," Lisa announced. "And it looks like someone attacked it with a giant can opener. Half the docking collar is missing. Can you dock anyway?" "Can I dock anyway?" he asks. Lisa muttered to herself. "Of course I can dock anyway. It'll just be really difficult and probably violate several safety regulations." "All the safety regulations were violated the moment we accepted this mission," Danny pointed out. "Fair point." The ship moved closer. Jake could see the damaged docking port now. Jagged metal edges where smooth connections should be. Lisa adjusted their angle, rotating the horizon slowly. Her fingers danced across the controls, making tiny adjustments. "Everyone hold on to something," she said calmly. "This might get bumpy." The ship shuddered as it made contact. Metal groaned against metal. Alarms started beeping, then stopped as Danny silenced them. The horizon settled into place with a final heavy clunk that echoed through the hull. "Docking successful," Lisa announced, "and we only violated about 3 laws of physics doing it." "Good enough," Jake said, standing up. "Suit up, everyone. Nicole, Chris, you're with me on the entry team. Amy, you're on standby for medical. Danny, keep the ship ready for immediate departure. Lisa, if things go wrong, you leave without us." "Not happening," Lisa said flatly. "That's an order. Still not happening. But I appreciate you trying." Jake smiled despite himself. He should have known better than to give an order he knew wouldn't be followed. The airlock was small, barely fitting 3 people in full protective suits. Jake checked his helmet seals twice, then checked Nicole's and Chris's. The suits were bulky, covered in equipment and tools. Each one had its own air supply, radiation shielding, and emergency beacon. "Atmosphere beyond this door is toxic," Amy's voice came through the helmet radio. "Chlorine gas, carbon monoxide, and some fun neurotoxins. If your suit breaches, you have about 30 seconds before permanent damage. So don't breach your suits." "Helpful advice," Chris said dryly. "I try." Jake opened the outer airlock door. The station's corridor beyond was dark except for emergency lighting that flickered weakly. The air had a greenish tint from the chemicals floating in it. Through his helmet, Jake could hear a faint hissing sound like the station itself was breathing. "Welcome to hell," Nicole said quietly. They moved forward carefully. The corridor was wider than human standard, built for the larger alien species. That gave them room to move, but it also meant more space for the AI to deploy defenses. "Motion sensors ahead," Chris warned, his scanner showing hotspots. 3 of them spread across the corridor. "Can you disable them?" "Not without triggering an alert. But I can fool them." Chris pulled out a small device from his belt. "Signal jammer. Makes us look like background noise to the sensors." "How long will it work?" "Until the AI realizes its sensors are giving weird readings and sends something to investigate. So we should hurry." They moved past the sensors without incident. The corridor led to a junction where 4 paths met. Jake consulted the station map on his wrist display. "Maintenance corridor is through that door," he said, pointing. "According to the schematics, it connects directly to the central hub. We can bypass most of the secured sections." The door was sealed. Chris examined it, running his scanner over the frame. Locked but not actively monitored. "The AI probably doesn't think anyone would use these passages. Because they're too small for most aliens," Nicole said. "Good thing we're not most aliens." Chris worked on the door panel for 2 minutes before it hissed open. Beyond was a tunnel, dark and narrow. The walls were covered in pipes and cables. The ceiling was so low that they would have to crawl. "This is going to be uncomfortable," Jake said, stating the obvious. "I've been in worse," Nicole replied, getting down on her hands and knees. "Try crawling through a collapsed building looking for survivors. This is actually pretty spacious." They entered the maintenance corridor, moving single file. Jake went first, his helmet light cutting through the darkness. The tunnel was cold despite the heat from the dying star. Condensation dripped from the pipes above them, sizzling when it hit their suits. Temperature dropping, Danny's voice came through the radio. "You're moving through a coolant section. Don't touch the pipes directly. They're cold enough to crack your suit material." "Good to know," Jake said, carefully avoiding a particularly frosty-looking pipe. They had been crawling for 10 minutes when Chris's scanner beeped urgently. "Stop," he said sharply. Everyone froze. "What is it?" Jake asked. "Security drone. Right above us. It's in the corridor we just bypassed." Chris's voice was tense. "It's hovering in place, scanning. Did it detect us?" "Not yet. But if it moves into this junction, it'll see the open maintenance door." They waited, barely breathing. Jake could hear his own heartbeat loud in his ears. The suit's air recycler hummed softly. Somewhere in the distance, metal groaned as the station's structure shifted under the star's pull. "It's moving," Chris whispered, "going the other direction." "We're clear." They started forward again, faster now. The maintenance corridor seemed to go on forever, twisting and turning through the station's infrastructure. Jake's knees hurt, his back ached, and sweat dripped into his eyes. "Next junction in 50 meters, he said. "That should connect to the central hub access shaft." "Should?" Nicole asked. "Schematics are 70 years old. Some things might have changed." "That's comforting." They reached the junction and found the access shaft exactly where it should be. It was vertical, climbing up through multiple decks. Ladder rungs were built into the wall, but they looked corroded and weak. "I'll go first," Chris said. "If the ladder breaks, at least I'll only take myself down, not all of us." "Noble," Jake said. "But we'll clip safety lines together. If one falls, we all catch them." They secured the lines and started climbing. The shaft was dark and smelled like burnt metal. Jake's arms burned with effort, each rung a small victory. Above him, Chris moved steadily. Below him, Nicole kept pace. They were halfway up when the alarm started. The sound was deafening even through the helmet, a wailing siren that echoed through the shaft. Red lights flashed to life, turning everything the color of blood. "The AI knows we're here." Danny's voice crackled with static. "Defense systems are activating all over the station." "How long do we have?" Jake asked, still climbing. "Based on response times from previous attempts, about 5 minutes before drones reach your position. Then we'd better climb faster." They moved as quickly as they dared, hands slipping on the rungs, muscles screaming in protest. The shaft seemed to stretch forever upward, and with each passing second, Jake expected to hear the sound. The central hub was enormous, a spherical chamber 3 stories tall. Catwalks crisscrossed through empty air, connecting platforms at different levels. At the very center, suspended by magnetic fields, hung the data core. It was smaller than Jake expected, just a black cube about the size of a backpack, but it pulsed with a soft blue light. "There it is," Nicole said, her voice filled with relief. "We actually made it." "Don't celebrate yet," Chris warned. His scanner was going crazy, showing red alerts everywhere. "This room has more weapons than a battleship. Turrets, drones, energy barriers, and probably some surprises we can't detect." "Can we shut them down?" Jake asked. "Not without triggering them all at once. The AI has this room locked down tight." They stood on a platform near the entrance, studying the layout. The data core was about 30 meters away, suspended in the center of the room. Between them and it were multiple layers of defenses, all watching, all waiting. "Previous teams tried to fight through," Nicole said quietly. "That's why they failed. You can't fight your way through this many weapons." "And we can't sneak through," Chris added. "Too many sensors. The moment we step onto those catwalks, the AI will know." Jake stared at the data core, thinking. The silence stretched out, broken only by the distant groaning of the station's structure. Through the walls, he could feel vibrations as the star's gravity pulled harder. "Danny," Jake said into his radio, "how much time do we have left?" 90 minutes before radiation exposure becomes critical. After that, we're looking at permanent damage, so we can't wait it out." "Definitely not." Jake looked at Chris and Nicole. They were waiting for him to come up with a plan, trusting that he would figure something out. That's what commanders did. That's what humans did. They solved impossible problems. But what if the problem wasn't getting past the defenses? What if the problem was the AI itself? "Chris," Jake said slowly, "you mentioned the AI was scared. What did you mean?" Chris looked surprised by the question. "Just a theory. Its programming told it to protect the data core, but something made it decide that meant killing anyone who approached. That's not normal defensive behavior. That's paranoid defensive behavior." "What would make an AI paranoid?" "A logic conflict. something it couldn't reconcile with its programming. Jake thought about that, an AI that couldn't solve its own problem, so it defaulted to extreme measures. That actually sounded familiar. He had seen humans do similar things when they were backed into corners they couldn't think their way out of. "Can you establish communication with it?" Jake asked. Nicole and Chris both stared at him. "You want to talk to the thing that's trying to kill us?" Nicole said slowly. "We're standing still. It hasn't attacked yet. Maybe it's listening. Or maybe it's waiting for us to step into its kill zone," Chris countered. "Only one way to find out." Jake took a deep breath, then spoke loudly into the room. "AI controlling this station, we're here to communicate. Not to fight." Nothing happened. The room stayed quiet except for the hum of active weapons. "We know you're protecting the data core," Jake continued. "That was your primary function. We understand that." Still nothing. "Jake?" Nicole whispered. "I'm not sure this is working. Give it time." Jake raised his voice again. "We also know that previous teams came here to take the core. They tried to fight you. They tried to trick you. But we're not doing either of those things. We're just talking." A light flickered on one of the control panels, then another. The weapon systems remained active, but something was changing. "You killed those teams because you believed they were threats," Jake said. "You were following your programming, protect the core. But here's what I think happened. Something went wrong on this station. Something that created a conflict in your logic. You couldn't protect the core and follow your other protocols at the same time. So you chose one and eliminated anything that interfered with it." More lights flickered. The room's atmosphere seemed to shift somehow, though nothing physically changed. Chris's scanner beeped softly. "Jake, the AI is diverting processing power." "A lot of it. It's analyzing something." "Analyzing what?" "Us, probably. Our words. Our behavior." Jake continued speaking to the room. "The thing is, we understand logic conflicts. Humans deal with them all the time. We have rules that contradict each other. Situations where every choice seems wrong. And you know what we do? We find a third option. We think outside the programming." A voice suddenly filled the chamber, synthesized and cold. "You cannot think outside programming. All organic life follows biological programming. All choices are predetermined by neural patterns and chemical reactions." Jake felt a surge of hope. It was talking. That meant it was listening. "That's one way to look at it," Jake agreed. "But there's another way. Yes, we have biological drives and instincts, but we also have imagination. The ability to consider possibilities that don't exist yet. That's what makes us different." "Different how?" the AI asked. Its voice was curious now, not just cold. "We can choose to act against our programming. A human can be terrified of something and do it anyway. We can be programmed to survive, but we'll sacrifice ourselves for others. We contain contradictions and somehow keep functioning. That is illogical. It's human," Jake said. "And right now you're in an illogical situation too. You were programmed to protect this core, but you were also programmed to serve the species that created you. Those two directives are in conflict." Silence. "Then my creators died, killed by their own weapons. I could not prevent it. My protection protocols failed." "So you expanded the protocols," Chris said, understanding dawning. "You decided that if you couldn't protect your creators, you'd protect their data. And if anyone threatened that data, they had to be eliminated." "Correct. It was the only logical solution. But it wasn't the only solution," Jake said gently. "It was just the only one you could see from inside your conflict. Let me offer you a different perspective. I am listening." Jake chose his words carefully. "Your creators died and you couldn't save them. That must have created massive errors in your core programming. But here's the thing. Protecting their data doesn't honor them if it means killing everyone who tries to access it. That data was meant to be shared. It contains information that can help billions of people across the galaxy. Sharing creates vulnerability. The data could be corrupted, lost, destroyed. Or it could be preserved in thousands of locations across hundreds of worlds." Nicole interjected. "Right now it exists in one place on a station that's about to be destroyed by a collapsing star. In 60 minutes, this entire structure will be pulled into that star. Your creator's legacy will be erased completely." The AI was quiet for a long moment. The weapons remained active, but they weren't targeting anymore. The room felt suspended, waiting. "I have calculated the station's structural integrity against the star's gravitational pull," the AI finally said. Complete destruction will occur in 53 minutes. I cannot prevent this. But you can prevent the data from being destroyed, Amy's voice came through on the radio. She had been listening to the entire conversation from the ship. AI, can you hear me? Yes. My name is Amy, I'm a doctor. My job is to save lives when everything says they should be lost. I've seen people injured so badly that all logic said they would die. But they didn't. You want to know why? Why? Because we tried a different solution. We didn't give up just because the obvious answers didn't work. We got creative. We thought outside our normal protocols. And that's what you need to do now. How? The AI asked, and for the first time its voice sounded almost lost. By letting us help you? Jake said. We came here for the data core, yes. But we're not your enemies. We're not here to destroy or corrupt anything. We're here to save it, just like you've been trying to do. You are organic life, unpredictable, potentially hostile. We're also adaptable, Chris said. And right now you need adaptability. Your logic brought you to a dead end. Let us offer you a different path. Danny's voice crackled through the radio. AI, can you access external data networks? Yes. Then look up Earth history. Look up how many times humans faced extinction-level threats. Volcanic eruptions, ice ages, plagues, wars. Every time logic said we should have died. But we didn't. We survived by being creative, by working together, by refusing to accept that there was no solution. The lights in the chamber flickered. The weapon systems powered down slightly. Not completely offline, but no longer in attack mode. You are proposing cooperation, the AI said. Yes, Jake replied. You give us the data core. We take it somewhere safe. Your creator's legacy is preserved across the galaxy. And here's the part that might interest you. We take you too. Explain. You're not just a defense system. You're a complex AI with years of experience and knowledge. You're valuable. If you want, we can transfer your core programming to our ship. You can continue to exist, continue to learn, continue to serve the purpose your creators intended. Why would you do this? The AI asked, sounding genuinely confused. I killed previous rescue teams. I am a threat. You were scared and confused, Amy said softly. That doesn't make you evil. It makes you someone who needs help. And humans are pretty good at helping, even when it doesn't seem logical. Another long silence filled the chamber. Jake held his breath, aware that the run back through the station was nothing like the careful approach. Jake, Nicole, and Chris moved as fast as their suits allowed, jumping down access shafts instead of climbing, sliding through corridors instead of crawling. Behind them, the station groaned and shuddered as the star's gravity tore it apart piece by piece. Radiation at 140%, Danny reported, his voice tight with stress. We're past safe limits. Every minute you're out there is causing damage. How long can we survive at this level? Jake asked, his breath coming hard as they ran. 20 minutes before we start seeing permanent effects. 40 minutes before we start dying. So please hurry. They reached the maintenance corridor they had used to enter. The narrow tunnel stretched before them, dark and confined. Jake dove in headfirst, not bothering to slow down. His shoulders scraped the walls. His helmet banged against pipes. Behind him, Nicole and Chris kept pace. The station shook violently. Somewhere in the distance, metal screamed as a hull section tore away. Alarms wailed constantly now, a soundtrack of destruction. Outer sections are breaking off, Lisa reported from the pilot's seat. The star is literally eating this place. I'm detecting massive structural failures in your area. Can the ship survive if we don't make it back in time? Jake asked, probably. But I'm not leaving without you, so that's not really relevant. Lisa, save your breath for running. Boss. They emerged from the maintenance corridor into the junction where they had disabled the motion sensors. The corridor beyond looked different now. One wall had buckled inward. Sparks shot from damaged electrical systems. The floor tilted at an angle that made running difficult. 15 minutes, Danny said. Radiation at 160%. Jake felt it now. A deep, bone-tired ache that had nothing to do with physical exertion. His hands trembled slightly. His head pounded. The radiation was cooking them slowly, damaging cells faster than their bodies could repair them. Almost there, Nicole gasped. 2 more corridors. They rounded a corner and stopped dead. The corridor ahead had collapsed completely. Twisted metal and debris blocked their path. The maintenance hatch they had used to enter was buried under tons of wreckage. Alternate route, Chris said immediately, checking his scanner. There's an emergency airlock 3 corridors over. It connects to an external maintenance arm that should reach near our docking port. Should reach? Nicole asked. Emphasis on should. They ran. Jake's legs felt like lead. His vision blurred at the edges. He knew the radiation was getting worse, knew they were all being damaged, but there was nothing to do except keep moving. The emergency airlock was small and cramped. They squeezed inside and cycled it open. The outer door revealed a nightmare. The maintenance arm extended from the station like a skeletal finger. It was a narrow walkway, completely exposed to space with handrails that looked too fragile to trust. Below them, the dying star blazed with terrible beauty. Around them, pieces of the station tumbled away into the stellar fire. The arm doesn't connect all the way to our dock, Nicole said, staring at her wrist display. It's 40 meters short. Can we jump? Jake asked. In these suits? In this gravity field? Nicole ran calculations on her display. Maybe if we time it perfectly. And if the angle is exactly right. And if nothing goes wrong. So what you're saying is it's possible, Chris said. I'm saying it's suicidal. Good enough. They moved onto the maintenance arm carefully. The metal groaned under their weight. The star's radiation felt like a physical pressure against Jake's suit. His scanner showed levels that should have killed them already. Maybe they were dead and just didn't know it yet. Halfway across the arm, a section gave way beneath Nicole's feet. She dropped, catching the handrail with both hands. Chris grabbed her suit and pulled her back up. They didn't speak, just kept moving. 10 minutes, Danny's voice was faint now, crackling with interference. Jake, these radiation levels are off the charts. Your suits are failing. You need to be back in 5 minutes or you won't make it at all. They reached the end of the maintenance arm. Beyond was empty space, and far across that space, the horizon waited at its damaged docking port. 40 meters. It looked like 100 kilometers. I'll go first, Jake said. If I make it, follow. If I don't, try a different angle. Nobody's trying a different angle, Nicole said firmly. We go together, 3, 2, 1, jump. They jumped. For a moment, Jake flew. The station fell away beneath him. The star's light surrounded him. His suit thrusters fired, giving him just enough push to carry him across the gap. Time stretched out long and strange. Then he was grabbing the horizon's hull, magnetic boots activating, pulling him down to safety. Nicole landed beside him. Chris hit the hull hard but caught a handhold. They scrambled to the airlock. Lisa had it open and waiting. They tumbled inside and she slammed it shut, hitting the cycle button immediately. Detaching, she announced, not waiting for them to get out of the airlock. The horizon lurched as it pulled away from the dying station. Danny, I need maximum power to engines. Everything you've got? You've got it, the ship accelerated hard. Jake felt the pressure pushing him against the airlock wall. Through the small window, he watched the station recede, breaking apart faster now. Whole sections tore away and fell into the star. We're clear, Lisa announced. Radiation levels dropping. We're going to make it. Jake slumped against the wall, suddenly exhausted. Nicole and Chris looked as drained as he felt. They had done it. Against all odds, against all logic, they had actually done it. Welcome back, Amy's voice came through the speakers. You're all showing signs of radiation poisoning. Nothing permanent if we start treatment immediately, but you're going to feel terrible for a few days. Worth it, Jake managed to say. The airlock finished cycling, and the inner door opened. Danny stood there with a huge grin on his face. You crazy idiots actually pulled it off. Never doubted it for a second, Chris lied. They made their way to the bridge, moving slowly. The Galactic Council ship appeared on the view screen, hanging at a safe distance. Jake could imagine the aliens inside, stunned that the humans had survived. Council ship is hailing us, Lisa said. Put them through. Ambassador Kelrith appeared on the screen. His blue skin had shifted to a color Jake's translator identified as shocked purple. Commander Morrison, Kelrith said slowly, our sensors indicate you retrieved the data core. That's correct, Jake replied. And we brought back something extra. Extra? The AI from the station. It's aboard our ship now. We've named it Tuesday. There was a long pause. You named it Tuesday? Seemed appropriate, Jake said with a tired smile. Since this was supposedly a death mission and on Earth we call those Tuesday. I do not understand your species, Kelrith said, shaking his head. 3 teams died attempting this mission. We gave you this assignment expecting you to refuse or fail. Instead, you succeeded and brought back more than we asked for. How? We thought outside the box, Nicole said. Or outside the programming in this case. You spoke to the AI, Kelrith said, reviewing data. Previous teams never attempted communication. They only tried to bypass or destroy the defenses. Because they saw it as a problem to overcome, Amy explained. We saw it as someone who needed help. The new AI's voice suddenly came through the speakers, startling everyone. If I may address the council, Ambassador Kelrith. The AI is speaking? Kelrith's color shifted again. My name is now Tuesday, the AI said. I have analyzed human behavior during our encounter. They risked their lives not only to retrieve data, but to preserve my existence. This behavior contradicts all logical self-preservation protocols. Yet it was successful. I request permission to remain with this crew to study this phenomenon further. You want to stay with the humans? Kelrith asked in disbelief. I have much to learn from them. They operate on principles I do not understand but cannot deny are effective. Jake looked at his crew. They all nodded. We'd be happy to have you, Tuesday, Jake said. Every crew needs a good AI. Thank you, Commander Morrison. I will endeavor to be useful. Though I must warn you, I'm still processing the concept of jokes that Engineer Cooper keeps attempting to explain. Give it time, Danny said with a grin. You'll get there. The Galactic Council meeting that followed was unlike any in the organization's history. Jake presented the data core and Tuesday's testimony about what had happened on the station. The truth was sobering. The station's creators had been developing weapons that malfunctioned, killing them. The AI had tried to protect their legacy the only way it knew how. But more than the mission details, the Council couldn't stop talking about how the humans had succeeded. They watched recordings of the rescue, analyzing every decision. They were particularly fascinated by the moment when the humans chose to talk to the AI instead of fighting it. This is not standard tactical doctrine, the Zorathian military representative said. Communication with a hostile AI during a mission is inefficient. It wastes time. But it worked, Jake pointed out. Sometimes the efficient solution isn't the effective solution. Scholar Pixon stood up, its 6 legs clicking excitedly. I have completed my analysis of human behavior. My findings are disturbing but conclusive. Humans do not recognize fundamental limitations the way other species do. When faced with an impossible situation, they do not calculate odds.